My dad taking me to school 3 years after he'd passed away. Today on the Landlord Coach Daily show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Landlord Coach Daily show. My name is Mark Dolfini. I am the Landlord Coach and host of the Landlord Coach Daily show. It is really good to see you. Took a couple days off last week, so I know some of you had reached out and said, "Hey, what about the Daily show?" Well, I had Christmas shopping to do, and we did Christmas shopping. I did Christmas shopping with each of my sons. We did it separately. So I took Leland first, and then I took Logan, the younger of the two, second. And it was so interesting because they are 100% brothers. It's so funny. They both spent the most of the money that they had. They spent the most on each other, which was bizarre. They've never had their own money to spend before for Christmas, so they got some money from helping with the house flip that you guys might be familiar with that we did in Seymour this past summer. And so they got money for that, but the younger of the two got more. I won't say how much more, but significantly more because he did a lot more work. So, and the older brother, the Leland knew that going into it. And so we talked about, the first 10% goes to God, the next 10% goes to savings. And then there's an amount in there that they can spend. And I didn't want them to spend all of it. So, we talked about budgeting and that sort of thing. So talked about some good money stuff and whatever. So these our two sons, the brothers, our two sons, I took them separately, and it was so funny because they wound up at the same exact stores, shopping for one another. Like not even just the same stores, but the same kiosks, like the same spots. It's like they went there by remote control. And trust me, they did not plan anything of that out because they were, especially the younger of the two, he's so damn random. God bless him. But it was just interesting because seeing the two of them who were separated by a full day. And I know Leland wouldn't have told his younger brother where he went shopping but they went not only to the same stores, they went to the same displays. So it was really interesting to see them shopping for one another, and they both bought similar things for each other. It was just crazy. I don't know. It was just kind of neat to see, but had a really good experience. Had an amazing Christmas with Jen's parents, and it was just really, really good. So today I want to talk about, an unexpected present. And, it got me thinking for just a second. This part won't be about business. So I just want to tell you, Jen's been having some problems. And, just abdominal pain and stuff like that. We thought it might be, God forbid, ovarian something. Turned out it was not anything cancerous. So thank God for that. But we were sitting because of COVID. We have to sit in the parking lot and wait for the hospital will call us in. And of course, I couldn't go in. She's already had this biopsy, to check on what's going on with her. So we were just waiting to see the results of the biopsy. So, of course, we're sitting in the car and the snow is blowing sideways, and I'm just kind of sitting there and we're just waiting. There's nothing to do but wait. And Jen has to go in by herself because COVID, I can't go in with her, and we're just waiting to see if she's got this, what this diagnosis is going to be. So, we're sitting there, and as I'm sitting there, I'm just thinking, how many prayers have actually been said in this parking lot? How many prayers have been said, prayers for health, prayers for healing, prayers for even just basic survival in that parking lot of the OBGYN office. I don't know what made me think of that. Certainly we were among the people praying in that parking lot for good news that day. Unfortunately, we did get delivered a really nice present. It was really good news. No cancer. Jen's doesn't have cancer. So, I know that there was some concern about that. Some other things, she may have to have a procedure done, but we'll see. We'll just, see where that leads us. But thanks for those of you who knew about it and were reaching out to her, and keep the well-wishing and good vibes and certainly prayers if that's if you do that, certainly appreciate your prayers for that too. So an unexpected present. This is something that came from my dad years after he passed away. And certainly part of the lesson came to me earlier on, but I'll tell you that, bringing this back into business for just a second, my dad and I were estranged for a little bit. He and I were not talking because, well, let's just face it, he's kind of a hardhead and he raised a hardhead. So I totally get it when I see our oldest son. He's definitely got a lot of me in him in terms of, hard-headed and stubbornness, but he's going to make his own way and he's going to learn however he needs to learn. But so when I was struggling with my business, and what he realized, he knew I was struggling. And my dad, you got to understand, he was raised in, he grew up born in the 30s, grew up through the 40s, and they were farmers. They grew up in upstate New York. And my dad ran a milk route. It was a big milk tanker. So he basically started doing that. Then he started dispatching other truckers to do that before he knew it. And this is back in the days of the Interstate Commerce Commission. My dad figured out, in order to grow a trucking company, you either had to buy the route from another company or you had to buy the company. So my dad, through wheeling and dealing and, beg, borrow, and stealing, he basically just did what he could to grow his business to a point where he grew a multi-million-dollar trucking business. With a guy with an 8th grade education, that's pretty impressive. So my dad was my hero. I mean, he didn't have a lot of education, but he was very smart. Not much that he couldn't do. So he came here. He lived in Vegas at the time. He came from Vegas, and he wanted to come here to Indiana to help me out. Maybe just help, see what I was, I didn't know what he was coming here for, to be honest with you. I didn't really understand his expertise until years later. So we're sitting in the truck. He's following me. He basically just riding shotgun with me for a couple of days, and I was freaking busy. I mean, I had, at the time, I still had 92 rental units. I was running around like crazy, and literally from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. And, I just basically said, Dad, if you want me to drop you off, like if this gets too much, you just let me know. And my dad, I'm thinking he was coming up on 70. No, he was in his 70s at the time. He was no spring chicken, but he rode with me the entire time. Watch me do this, watch me do that, watch me answer my phone call about 50 times an hour. Trying to return emails, just trying to keep all the balls in the air. And at some level, maybe I wanted to impress my dad, just kind of show him the hustle that I was doing. But at the end of the day, he didn't really say much. He was just writing on a legal pad, just keeping, having conversation with me. And so he did this for a couple of days. And I'm kind of thinking, like, is he here to help? Like, what's he doing? So this went on for a few days. So my dad, like, if you're joining me late, my dad came out here to Indiana to try to help me out with my rental business. So after about the end of the second day, he starts asking me questions about this, what I'm doing, that, what I'm doing, and all this other stuff that I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I was like, Dad, because this has got to get done. And if I don't get that done, this won't get done, and this won't get done, and everything else. Now, like I said earlier on, my dad was born in the 30s. He was a hard man. He was not a soft place to land. And you got to understand, back in the days of the Interstate Commerce Commission, and he literally had to fight, when he would say he'd have fights with the Teamsters, it was not like over a negotiating table. It was usually with axe handles and 30-30 Remingtons. And that's no joke. And there were stories that he told me that I'm sure were breaking some sort of laws somewhere, but we'll just leave those stories for another time. But my dad was trying to help me out. And as much as I wanted to hear the lesson, I just wasn't able to hear it. I was not in any place to receive what I viewed as criticism, where he viewed as help. And, again, I've used this analogy before. It was like having birthday cake punched into your mouth. I mean, yeah, I wanted it, but at that moment in time, I was up to my ass in alligators. I didn't want to talk about, putting infrastructure in place and having computers and having an office. I mean, we ended up getting an office. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with an office. Like, okay, great. Now I've got this office. What am I going to do with it? I don't even have any person to sit there. And if I did, I don't have anything for them to do because it was all in my head. Literally everything, from answering the phone calls to, I knew everybody's situation and, well, that person, they work nights, so I can't call them until 3 o'clock and this, and I mean, everything was in my head, everything. Nothing was systematized. Nothing was process oriented. Everything was based around putting out the latest fire. So as a result, it was absolute madness. It was absolute craziness. And that was the thing that, that it took me a minute to get my feet set in terms of what he was actually trying to say to me. But even then I was like, Dad, this isn't helpful. If you want to help, grab a hammer or, help me fix stuff. But that's not what he was there for. And unfortunately, he left that trip with both of us screaming at each other. And he ended up getting his own ride to the airport and left a few days prior to when he was actually supposed to leave. And my dad and I did not talk for at least a good year, probably a year, close to a year and a half. And that sucked because that was really, really tough. And especially, not having my dad at that, critical time. But I also recognized that if I was going to do this, if I had to figure this out, doing what I was doing was not going to get me to where I had to go. And that reminds me of the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. It's a book by Marshall Goldsmith, I think. And a really good book. I think it's probably would have made a better article. It's not, the concept is pretty much there. What the tools that get you here won't get you there. It's not a bad book. It's just, I don't think it could have been, it should have been a book, but it was a really good concept because the same tools that got me to where I was were not the same tools that were going to get me to the next level. And that was the thing that I had to recognize with my dad, was trying to tell me that these tools that I had were a broken set of tools that, like, and I talk about this, when I reference my business course, the VIP, Become a VIP in the rental business. There's a lot of people who start a business out being tactically based, right? Now, what I'm talking about tactically based, it's like a bottom up strategy, where if let's face it, us entrepreneurs, hey, if we need to learn how to program a website, let's find some YouTube videos. Let's go do a thing, right? And if we need to learn how to use QuickBooks, we're going to go do a tutorial. If we need to know how to fix a refrigerator, we're going to go do a video tutorial. If we know how to do whatever it is, fill in the blank. In this age of information, that's what we do, right? Well, when something happens and you go do it, what is that a definition of? If you're paying attention, you've just created a job for yourself. And when this happens, you do this. I mean, it doesn't matter you have a boss. It's you, and you're working for a maniac. At least I was. And I was my boss would never allow me to have time off. My boss would never not allow me to not answer the phone. My boss would never allow me to take a vacation. And the pay sucked. I mean, at the end of the day, the pay absolutely sucked when I amortized all the money I was getting divided by all the hours I was putting in. So that's the lesson I learned from my dad. And every day and week that goes by, as I look through that lens that my dad was trying to teach me back in 2014, maybe. I mean, it was a while. I mean, no, it was earlier than that. I think it was probably around 2009, because I hadn't lost any of the properties yet. But I was well on my way there. And the reason I was well on my way there was because I had created a pile of miserable jobs that no one in the world could have kept up with. And as a result, I ended up losing most of my portfolio before I was able to figure it out, get my heels dug in, and started to dig back. So that was one of the really interesting things that I learned from my dad. Long after he actually, he had, this was basically my dad still taking me to school. Really, I miss him a lot. I lost my dad to God in 2017, but I'll tell you what, if he was here today, there's not one thing I would say to him differently. He and I had a good relationship, And I'm glad we left off the way we did. So really, really cool. So that's all I have for today. Let's see if there's anybody joining us today. Kathleen and Paul Stankiewicz, you guys are still in Vegas. Yes, I know. And you don't have snow. So yeah, thanks for rubbing it in. Well, that's all I have for today, guys. No quote for today. I just want to leave it off on that. But if you are interested in taking a look at the course I was just talking about, you can go to landlordcoach.com/VIP. That will tell you a little bit about what it is that if you're looking to create an infrastructure for your business or get some processes, the course can certainly help you with that. And also, if you'd like to check out the property management software, if you're needing some, go to rentaware.com, rentaware.com. They will certainly take good care of you. That's all I have for today, everybody. Please be sure to place a value on your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. But most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time.